Hello, everyone. I am Sean Ferrick, your host for The War Room, which is the interview series as part of the CloneStar Pod. Joining me this week is the sometime Vulcan, sometime Romulan, oftentimes dipshit from Chicago, the amazing Captain Liam Shaw himself, Todd Stashwick. How are you, sir?
I'm living the dream. I am probably always a dipshit from Chicago.
That is, like, I mean, getting straight to it, I'm sure since that episode aired, I really hope people have just been like, oh yeah, no, we now have a new top 10 scene in Trek.
It's been humbling, the response that people have given to my salty bastard. Yeah.
It's Salty Bastard is a great, because I mean, I love the fact that in theory this is, you know, you're bad mouthing Picard. We've loved Picard for ages. Oh my god, it's great. And yet in that scene, we're kind of see his point. He's kind of nailing.
Yeah,
this
you know,
one.
it's interesting because a lot of people would, you know, a lot of people have rushed to his defense, saying it wasn't his fault that he was turned into Locutus. He was essentially possessed, right? Shaw's point is, he believes the way that the crew of the Enterprise behaved, whether it's true or not, his belief is their cowboy ways poked the bear that led to the taking of Picard as Locutus. So he say they tempted fire, or they played with fire, and they did often, which is again like in the turbolift scene where he just sort of reads off all of their exploits. He believes that whether he intentionally was setting space on fire, his behavior that led up to him being put in that situation, he believes they played in traffic.
Gotcha. And like, it's one thing, you know, the audience has watched along and we've seen the nuances and this and the guilt and everything. But I think that scene explored so well is it's like Shaw got to say all of the things to Picard that Sisko didn't get to say in Emissary. You know, What about the rest of the fleet? Are they as understanding?
Yeah, and for Sisko, it was fresh on the heels, right? And for Shaw, he's been living with it for 30 years and probably never came face to face with Picard before. So stuff that he thought he had perhaps forgotten about, reconcile, although the deep trauma completely informing kind of his whole approach, all just got stirred up like these things do, like grief and PTSD and survivor's guilt, and all these things got stirred up again the minute he laid eyes on and was in the same room as Picard.
Did you have any idea how the delivery of a single word would take over the internet?
Would it be awful if I said, "Oh, of course, Sean"? Of course.
Hey, we believe in truth here.
I knew I was just spitting gold. No, you never know. You never, like, who, you just do a scene and you never know what people are going to meme. You just do a scene. The irony being that the two times that I've said no on national television, they've become memes. One was from Supernatural and the other is from Picard. You don't know. You don't, because you can't let that stuff inform you. You just have to do the scene and you just play the scene. And by the way, like, I probably said it a dozen times that day, and whatever choice of the take, because that's sometimes what resonates is how you delivered it. And you just don't know. You never know. I mean, it's exciting and fun and silly and humbling and pleasing and all of those superlatives.
It's fun. I mean, look, maybe this is like a really strange question because like Liam Shaw has been one of the leading characters of the season, but this of course is not your first trek through the stars.
It is not. I was on Enterprise. I did a few episodes of that as a covert Romulan disguised as a Vulcan, which just involved bangs apparently.
I mean, like it's one of the handiest things. You have to give them props. Back in the 60s, they're like, how do I design this alien? And it's endured for about 50 odd years. To
It's
be
just so
fair,
simple. It's
uh,
so simple, and I mean, and look, it has its roots in Elvishness and all of that. Uh, I thought that was going to be it. That was my tour through the Trek universe, and it was really fun. Makeup and fighting and all of the being on Vulcan and bleeding green.
it is funny because I think for outsiders looking into to Star Trek, I mean, what are the things you know? Live long and prosper. The pointed ears, and you probably know Klingons. You know what I mean? Like these are the things that. So
Yep.
in your first go, you get to have the pointed ears and the live long and prosper, but you kind of also get to be a bit shady.
I do. Well, that's sort of my wheelhouse. Uh, that's what you get for having resting villain face. It's it was as a boy I would look in the mirror and I would pull my ears up and try to make Spock faces and work the eyebrows and stuff. And so I actually saved my Romulan ears and put them in a box with the Romulan insignia for my uncle as a memento, because he is a big Trek fan as well. Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time.
That is so good. Now, it's funny as well you're saying, like, that was your wheelhouse. You are one of those people who I just define as, you've been in everything, mate. Like, good Lord, Buffy, Angel, American Horror Story, Supernatural. I mean, like all of the big ones over, kind of.
Nice way of saying I'm old. I've had
backtrack. No.
Look, I've been a professional actor since '93, and I've been in Los Angeles since '90, since 2000. So I've been here for 23 years, and I fell into that wonderful niche of doing genre television. And I love it because it's the stuff that I watch. I mean, I wasn't the guy going to Seinfeld conventions. I was going to Comic-Con. Like, I love the kinds of projects that I get to make because I'm a fan of those kinds of projects. And I also love doing comedy and situation comedies and cop shows, and I love it all. Acting is fun.
I think your passion for it clearly comes across because you're one of those people, like, you don't shy away from social media, for example. You do your live streams, you engage with fans, which is, I think, one of the nicer sides that we see for social media.
Yeah.
Has that kind of increased somewhat in the last few weeks?
Yeah, there has, and I'm not going to tell any stories, but it does have its dark side. It does. The exposure can lead to some very strange situations. But by and large, it's wonderful. I enjoy getting out there and talking about the things that I love and sharing in the love of things. It is. One has to have boundaries, and we have to, like anybody in social media, you have to know that this is just a social conversation. Like, we don't know each other, like we get to know each other, but we're like what's it called, parasocial. So you have to protect oneself and draw your own personal limits, but at the same time, get out there and have fun. And I am always happy to engage with people, and I will respect their boundaries if they respect mine. But I love to nerd out, right? I like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I like to talk about Star Wars and Star Trek and Stranger Things, and I love to talk about it all. I love good story, and I love good genre story, and I love collectibles, and I love, I like to live in it. It's fun.
And like, obviously, looking behind you, I can clearly see that you like to live in it. Like, this is, I'm jealous with a capital green-eyed envy.
Well, look, this is a slow assemblage of a lifetime of collecting. I just was able to put it into one place for the fun of it, so that friends can come over and kind of celebrate with me. Yeah, because look, a lot of my friends like a lot of the same things that I do. Like attracts like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I mean, it makes perfect sense, isn't it? I mean, a lot of my friends are Trekkies, you know, and a
Yeah,
lot of them aren't.
exactly.
At this point, but
Sure.
yeah. One of your friends, a certain Mr. Metalis, you have obviously worked with a few times. Did you upset him in the way that he keeps killing you?
I think it speaks more to the types of roles. In all seriousness, he does like to physically have my characters beat up. I would often go through scripts of 12 Monkeys and be like, and Deacon's eye is swollen shut, and Deacon's eye is swollen shut. I think he just hates my depth perception. He does like to get bloody, but that also says something about the kind of characters that he casts me in, is that they sort of throw themselves into the heart of things. Even though Shaw seemed like he was reticent and risk averse, he certainly steps up and throws himself into the heart of things when the job calls for it. And Deacon was probably a lot more shoot from the hip. But and as far as killing me goes, it's all about serving story. It's not about favorites. It's not about anything. It's about what's the best version of this story and how do we tell it. And so character death is a part of good storytelling.
Exactly. And, how many examples can we think off the top of our head of times when, no, I don't want to sound bloodthirsty, but a character being killed might have served a story well, and then through convoluted means or plot armor, they're back to fight another day. It's like, no, like it's Shaw. Obviously, we're discussing episode 9 now. So Shaw's that scene, I could have told you what the last words were going to be as he said them, and that to me was good writing. It was set up in such a way.
As Robert McKee says, surprising yet inevitable conclusions. That you look at the math of the arc of a character and you go, well, that's satisfying. It may not be surprising in that the character eventually arcs to that place. But it's still satisfying in a way that sort of ties up so many of his dilemmas and his issues when you finally get to those final moments. And he is paying back a karmic debt. Someone did this for him.
That is very true. That entire final sequence. So episode 9 is where shit gets real. I mean, it's been real, but it gets really real. What was your approach when it came to that moment of realization where you're requesting something of Murrow doesn't answer. LaForge doesn't answer. And here is this survivor of Wolf 359 and his bridge is suddenly crawling with Borg.
Yeah, I mean, well, there was already a Borg on my bridge before that.
Well, that is
I think the reality is, after everything they had been through with Vadic and the changelings, I think it's just, as I say, the thing key changes like a Jim Steinman song. Like it just keeps climbing and climbing, and it's. I think at that point, like a lot of people in crisis situations, especially people that might have been through war before, they act first and fall apart later. And I think at that moment, the creeping fear is subsided with, oh my God, we have to stay alive so that we can figure out how to undo what's happened to them. And so I think this is why they're like, put the phasers on stun. Don't kill the crew. This is something that's happened to them. And if Seven and Picard are any example, you can kind of undo it. So I think he's in action mode. He's in self-preservation mode for everybody, not just himself. I think he's in leadership mode. Let's take some brass tacks. Let's do what needs to be done to not only save our ship, but this is happening galaxy wide.
That is, yeah, that scene, you get this real creeping feeling, that kind of sinking, like, oh crap, have the Borg actually done it this time? Have they actually
Yeah. Yeah.
succeeded?
Yeah.
And the callbacks to Shaw's past, and particularly, the experience as an engineer, really, really work. Down to the maintenance deck. We had a funny moment. We were chatting as we were reviewing the episode, and there's that bit in the turbo lift where obviously Shaw goes, "Oh yeah, 99 Delta maintenance deck," and Picard goes, "Great, everyone head to the maintenance deck." And I'm just thinking, how hard was it to not turn around to Patrick Stewart and go, "You've just told everyone what this great secret."
Well, he's also on private comms.
Good.
What I also think is funny about that moment is I basically give us the exit and then he takes the credit for it. We'll escape that way, he says. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's what I just said. Yeah. Okay. Like if you rewatch it, I literally give us the exit and then Picard says, "We'll use those to escape." And I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
Is there an echo in here?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It just makes me giggle for that reason too. But I think he's on private channels just to his
because the people who are waiting there obviously is everyone, and Raffi as well are stood on the other side of the door.
Exactly.
There is. So obviously, yourself and Jerry Ryan have so many scenes together. Of course, that's kind of the big arc story with Shaw and Seventh this season.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a kind of a double question. So one is obviously, how was that for you as performers, getting to know each other and building that together? And then as a Trekkie, how do you feeling that you now have almost as important a role in the development of Seven as, Janeway and the Doctor before?
First of all, I hope I never work with Jerry Ryan again. She's so mean.
Just awful.
She's the best. She's a laugher and I'm a monkey. So like it's the perfect combination. She loves to giggle and she's funny and she's playful and we're the same age. She went to college in Chicago. I grew up in Chicago. We just hit the ground like we had gone to college together. Immediately clicked. And I adore her. So the chemistry part was easy. The character development, they really wrote a fascinating relationship, a combative captain and his first officer. Like there's a lot of grit there, and he's obviously working through things, and and it was never overtly stated in the show, but I believe he chose her as a first officer. They say that Janeway and Picard recommended her for a position in Starfleet, but I believe I think a captain chooses his first officer or her first officer. I mean, we watch Burnham do it. Like we watch her do it more than once, I believe. So I think he chose her for reasons that she could be things that he is not. And also reasons that he's trying to overcome some issues in his own life, and through maybe immersion therapy, waking up and seeing a capable, forthright former Borg, is probably healthy for him in his process, whether he knows it or not. I think that might have happened all on a subconscious level. But as far as her development, huge. Like he knights her, and that was cool. That was cool. Also, being the last captain of the Titan, I am.
That is very true, of course, because this is airing post episode 10, so we know that while the Titan might physically survive the Borg invasion. As you said, that's it. It is retired, and there is a new captain with a new name on a ship. So we could probably still hear people cheering in the background to see that particular name on that ship.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I also love the fact that design is what the new ship looks like. I love it.
That's a good. So so this is something that's been, we've talked to Dave, we've talked to Terry, we've talked to Bill. When the first shot of the Titan was revealed, people were divided, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know, and I'm not sure about this." I think then once subsequent trailers came out and you get to see more, and people were just like, "Oh, I actually know what's going on right now." And I think hopefully
she's a sports car,
but she was, because we looked at her and went, "Oh, I like this. This is the Shangri-La." We'd seen this kind of thing before, and it was lovely. So, you're basically in charge of, this century's version of Kirk's Enterprise. That's pretty cool.
Your words, not mine, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's Constitution class. It's not a Shangri-La.
This, of course, yes. Yeah.
It's a Neo-Constitution.
Yeah. So I think, in the the observation room, you have the development. And actually, there was one point during the season when I think it was Sean Tarango and Dave Blass and Bill, the three of them, put out a beautiful schematic of the Luna class evolving into the Neo-Constitution. It's like, oh yeah, that's quite nice.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain internal structures that have remained the same, and clearly the nacelle drives are they're original. Which is why this grease monkey was the only one who could fix them.
And it's another it's another fun aspect to Shaw is that, and this is across the entire franchise, there can be captains who are just like, how did you get to become captain? What are your actual skills here? Like, are you just going to tell? I was like, no, there's a problem. I'm going to get down and I'm going to jury rig this thing open, and it works. When you get the initial offer and like, right, Captain Liam Shaw is going to be captain of the Titan, do you get like a character Bible and says, actually, you're going to be all this? Or is it just like, we're going to see how it goes? Is it script by script? What's the initial?
Well, there's a couple things. I knew he was the captain of the Titan. I knew it was the ship that was going to be the hero ship of the season. I knew I knew all about the Wolf 359 scene. I knew that was his backstory. I knew that he was a former engineer. So those details were given to me before I think it was even officially inked. So Terry was sort of prepping me for all of that. Even, his fate, I think that was a later in the game decision. That was not something that I knew going in.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question then was, was it always... well, it is a 10 episode arc. We do see Shaw in episode 10. But...
it was look, it's TV, so that reality always is there, especially when you're doing action television. That's always there too. And this show was Picard. It was about Picard and his growth and the next gen cast and then as the circle kind of goes out from him, then you have the next circle out from him, which would be well, I'd say when I say the circle, it's him and the TNG cast. Then you have Rafi and Seven, and then you have me, and Ed and Amanda, and in terms of this season. So the reality is, like in good storytelling, in order to achieve one's goals, sacrifices must be made, and that was where Shaw's destiny lies in this story.
It's one of the reasons I think the scene works, the actual scene where poor El Shaw gets jawsed, but where it actually happens is when I say it was like, okay, yeah, that it was not so much not surprising but satisfying. It's like he went out saving people. he didn't go out silently, so I think that we needed that. We needed that
No,
moment.
he didn't die of high cholesterol. No.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. When you think about it, in the beginning of the season, and I was one of these people, I thought, because we'd seen clips. So it was the final trailer, obviously, we see the reveal of Captain Shaw. And I remember vividly turning to my friend and being like, he's not making it past episode 1, because we're going to
You
get
weren't
Riker.
alone.
Yeah,
You
the
weren't
Captain
alone.
Riker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have it when the show was airing? Like, kind of, yeah.
Oh, I loved poking people. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, how many people were like, will we see you next week? Or, was it
a
like,
lot. Like as a joke, I said to Terry, because this character turned out resonating with people, and he's like, what are we going to say on the day on Twitter? And I said, I should just tweet, who beat the spread? in terms of who had episode 9. All right, bingo, you won. Like, a lot of people didn't think, and that's why I was making jokes that no, he doesn't make it past the opening credit sequence. He doesn't. Like, we were just having fun with it. It's like, and you can see why people would go, this is their show, so we got it. I don't think they expected the character to be as well drawn as he was, as realized as he was, and as how kind of integral to the plot as he became. Yeah, that was surprising. But to that, this isn't Star Trek: The Next Generation. This was Star Trek Picard, and Shaw is a character on Picard. He's not a TNG character, and so he is able to navigate a different arc, and because it was a 10-episode show, and you don't have to backstory Deanna Troi, you don't have to backstory, so that when you get to them, the audience is already caught up, and so you can use that real estate to dig deeper into Shaw and his motivations, and get us to care about this guy, and therefore his sacrifice becomes meaningful.
There was a great meme I saw. I think it's been around for a couple of weeks at this stage, but it was to picture. So it's 2 pictures. The first one is you taking the sip of wine, going no, and the one underneath it, I think, is you standing side by side with Seven, phaser in hand, and it's episode 1, airlock him immediately. Episode 7, if Shaw dies, we riot.
Yeah, it's well, and the funny thing is I had read the scripts. So I knew where this character was going. It's fun to watch people react page by page as they go through. I hate him. I love him. I hate him again. And the way audiences make firm decisions based on one episode at a time. It's always funny. like and I just know so much about how television works and how writing works that I will often watch things with the long view, but that was a joy for me. I love the fact that they hated this guy, because I knew where it was going. I knew that the potential for him breaking your heart is down the road, and then the audience feels ownership because they feel they've experienced a change of heart internally because they stood so firmly in one place emotionally here. It's better. It's better that it is spooled out. It's better that this wasn't a bingeable show. They didn't dump all 10 episodes on us. It was better so that people could digest and get opinions and talk about it and share and collectively hate Shaw, but then say, but he's right. It was fun.
We heard that a lot. I think it was the end. As early as episode 1, it was like, what is he wrong, though? That was the big question. So we were kind of getting grizzled Jellicoe. We were kind of getting that episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
I now kind of want that on a t-shirt.
Grizzled Jellicoe?
Grizzled Jellicoe, yeah.
Feel free.
Okay, all right. That's good. It's just gonna be you drinking wine, Grizzled Jellicoe. All right, Grant. Cool. Now that's it. Copyrighted. That's how it works. Obviously now Star Trek Picard season 3 When I say it's a one and done as part of the larger story. Um, we all went into season 3 thinking, right, this is going to be, it's the end of Star Trek Picard, and we'll see what's next. And as the weeks went on, it got, the little buzz got louder and louder and louder. We want the Titan spinoff. We want Star Trek Legacy. We want. I had a good chat with Olivia Youngers a couple of weeks ago. She's all in for a Riggs and Shaw spinoff. I'm just like, yeah, let's do that as well. This would be brilliant. This would be perfect. Obviously, you went and threw a spanner in that idea. You couldn't have stepped to the left. No, anyway, but you have actually been one of the people championing this idea of Star Trek Legacy. How would you feel if it happens and Shaw's a picture on the wall?
Well, I mean, it's Star Trek.
Mm.
So it's science fiction. So 100 things could happen, right? I was championing it because I believe that Terry Matalas has his thumb on the pulse of the 25th century, and he makes great TV, and there are more stories to be told. And, I do not know what the future brings. They will always have my sword. I am part of their legacy, and I belong to Trek from till death, till my death, not till, and then even after. Like Leonard Nimoy still belongs to Star Trek. And then as far as I joked to Terry. I said I should put out a in memoriam video and show Spock's death and Data's death and Picard's death. Like if they desperately feel they need to have him enter the picture again, they'll figure out a way. So, or I'm a picture on a wall. Some deaths are absolutely final, but that's all going to depend on the stories that they want to tell.
That is true.
And
now I have a way to bring you back.
Oh, good.
So I have a way to bring you back. So we don't know for certain that Shaw's not a descendant of Talok. So we know that the Vulcans and the Romulans can do the Catra thing, as you mentioned, Spock and everything. Who's to say?
Yeah. I mean, look, and the reality is, and that'll also be the fun thing online is to see if people try to sleuth out a way because they like this guy. In the meantime, if all I ever got to do is Enterprise and this season of Picard, Jesus Christ, what an embarrassment of riches, right? What a treat. And if they, I think he had an impact on people, and he had an impact on Star Trek as a whole, and I dig that, and I'm very proud of it. And who knows what the future brings? I certainly do not.
Absolutely,
I certainly do not.
You're 100% right. Like, he has had an impact. I know, personally, I know trauma survivors who have really identified with both the actions. You could say the actions negative or positive in terms of how he might react in a situation, because this is the nature of trauma. You don't get to choose how you react a lot of the time. And there, of course, I suppose, the dead naming of 7 of 9 throughout the season. This is obviously a topic that's come up an awful lot. I think it's
big one.
Yes, I think it's handled very well. How aware were ye going into the season that, like, this is something? Now, you couldn't have known obviously how topical it would become right now, in terms of what's happening.
Well, look, it was topical when they were writing it. I didn't write it. They knew. And that's the thing that Star Trek does really well, and good science fiction does really well, is it takes on current issues, and then it puts views it through a fantastical lens. In our case, not necessarily transsexuals, or anybody that chooses to go by a different name. This is through a Borg. Like, they choose to take on an issue that means a lot to the trans community, but they tell it through a Borg. And the fact that a Borg that happens to be at the very least bisexual, if not just a lesbian. So I can see why people connected to Seven and her arc completely, and then to have this character who does straddle the line between being what she was born and what she became, and then what she is choosing to identify as, and then to have an old white dude not conforming to her choices and insisting using his status to enforce other people to call her a certain way. I can see exactly why there was a negative reaction to it. You should have a negative reaction to it. And then you hear the Wolf 359 speech and you go, I don't agree with it, but I understand it. He wasn't doing it to be a dick. He was doing it because of darkness that lives in him and trauma and pain. He's going, I need this woman as my capable first officer. I have to compartmentalize part of who she is in order for me to be able to have her serve the best she can serve in Starfleet, because I believe I need her as my first officer. But I haven't recognized in my heart this other side of her. Just like I'll use the metaphor of a father who cannot come to terms, who loves his daughter, but cannot come to terms with if she's a lesbian or if she's transsexual or something. There is this conflict. And I think it's very real. And it to just sort of sideline Shaw and go, he's trash for being that way, well, is ignoring a bigger truth. And you can still say he's wrong, because he is. And at the same time go, I see why he's doing it. And it's going to take healing to get to the other side of that. But I see why he's doing it, and it isn't trivial. He's not making a choice to be a jerk.
Yeah, like it's the, and particularly in that our last ever shot of Shaw is not only recommending Seven for promotion, but recommending Seven for a promotion. And this was recorded before, before
but don't I say, well, I'm recommending, I think he says, and now onto the issue of Commander Hansen. I think that's before he stopped dead naming her. He recorded it before he stopped dead naming her, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
I think he said, I think I do say, and I could be misremembering it because it's been a while, but I think he says, and now to the issue of Hansen. I don't think he says 7 of 9, or maybe he does. I have to watch it again. I literally have not seen the scene for a year. So, but I do know that in his dying breath, he recognizes and respects her, and which also tells me he had already gotten there.
Yeah.
He'd already gotten there, but circumstances. So by the time that when she says taking on the consequences and then this, and they go through all of that stuff, I think he was ready to bridge that gap. But in his dying breath, he wanted to make sure that he knew that it was important for her to be recognized as that, and that he did. And not that he needs her approval. It just they were in such close crises together, and did their collective teamwork saved a lot of people. Them as a team was very successful. There was a begrudging respect between them.
I think as time goes on, that'll only become more and more prevalent, as we rewatch and people like me, as we go through with our, slide rule going, and what was okay at this moment in this episode, which I'm deep in process of doing already. But yeah. I'm going to come to the end of this. I have another question to ask you, but before I get to it, I just want to say, from the bottom of this Trekkie's heart, Shaw won us over. Either from the delivery of the word no up to, he has massive skills being chucked across the bridge. And it was a heck of a journey.
Thank you.
And well, as I say, just thank you for everything. I know whoever's
My
watching this or
pleasure.
listening to this is probably like, kind of, can we have more, please? So, yeah. So my last question is a nice, easy one. We ask it of all of our guests, so no thought required. Todd Stashwick, what does Star Trek mean to you?
I have answered this question before. And the answer is always the same. It means family. And it was introduced to me by family. I was embraced by the cast that then becomes an extension of my family. And then from the cruise forward, meeting the extended family of the fan network, of which I am a fan. So it's family. It's family. And all the complications that come with it.
Yes, that's true. But
family is not easy. Family is not easy, and the stories that they tell is about family and overcoming obstacles with compassion and intelligence and science and open-heartedness and tolerance and all of the things that we need to do to abide and get along with family. That's the best answer that I can give you.
I think that's perfect. It's perfect. So, Todd, thank you so much. I know you're active on social media. Where's the best places for people to find you?
You can find me at T Stashwick on Instagram, Todd Stashwick on Twitter, and you can find my nerdy merch site called The Nerd Circus, where I sell D&D stuff and cocktail book, D&D inspired cocktail book, and glasses and dice towers and t-shirts and stuff. And I'm not saying there won't be stuff inspired by Shaw in the future. I'm not going to say there won't be.
I like the careful phrasing of that. Todd, thank you so much. Everyone who's watching and listening, thank you so much for joining us along. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sure you have. We'll be back next week again with another episode of The War Room. Until then, I've been Sean. This has been my lovely co-host, Todd. And we will see you again soon. Live long and prosper,
Thanks,
everyone.
Sean. Cheers.
Cheers.